Hi there. In this video I'm going to show you how to warp our ribbon and tablet loom for rigid heddle weaving, so inkle weaving with a rigid heddle. The rigid heddle comes included in the kit, and I'm going to follow the instructions that are given in the booklet so that you can understand how we're reading this pattern. The pattern is the same format as for our tape loom. So if you already have our tape loom, or if you've watched any of those tutorials, all of those methods will work on this loom as well. First thing to see is the central heddle hole. And what I've done on my heddle is I've made a little mark. So if you're decorating your heddle, you might wish to put a little dot or a flower there just to help you along, so you don't need to count it. It's very important to warp up and keep your heddle centralized, and that just helps with the tension and so on as you're weaving, helps for a cleaner band. So basically, this is telling us that we need 13 ends, so we need 13 numbers of threads to make up this particular band. To whatever length will depend upon what you want to weave. You need 9 dark, 4 light. So it doesn't matter what color, you just want that kind of contrast. The circles denote the heddle holes, so the circles on the heddle, and the rectangles, the slots. Okay, so all we're going to do now is we're going to thread through according to the pattern. So we'll start at the center, and basically you just need to take your threads through and just set your heddle down. Okay, I'm just going to move the camera a bit so you can see what I'm doing as opposed to just watching the loom. And just weave them through. Now you do have in the kit a little piece of wire, so if you find that you have difficulty in threading through a particular thread, put a little hook on the end of the wire, and then you can take it through your slot or your hole and just draw through your thread that way. For most threads, you probably won't need it. And as you can see, I'm working from side to side of that central hole. Now we'll come to the light. This is a nice simple pattern, so okay, so we have them all threaded now. Now we just need to line up these threads at the back. So what I like to do is I bring the heddle, just sort of drop it down so that I can just line these threads up. It just saves sort of wasting any threads if you get them lined up initially, as close as you can do. Make sure that you do have all of the ends together. And then, because it's a nice simple band, not too many threads, we'll just tie that into an overhand knot to ensure that it all stays there. And then just smooth out your threads at the front of the heddle. Okay, so now we need to get that attached to the loom. I shall bring the loom forward now. And it doesn't matter which side you decide to connect it to. It's entirely up to you. We're going to take a piece of waste thread and we're going to place it over the roller. We've folded it in half, sorry. Over the roller, bring the two ends up through. I'm just going to pop a little stop in place on there. I'm going to bring the heddle into the box. Just separate some of those threads and tie this onto the waste thread. I'll use some half hitches. Use whatever's comfortable for you that's going to actually hold. And I'm a 3-knot person. Everybody says to do a double knot, and I like to do an extra for good measure. Okay, so now we're connected to one of the beams. What you need to do now, and it helps if you've got your loom in front of you, because what you need to do is you need to sort of hold the threads and the heddle. So I find that if I can hold the threads in my hand and then stretch out my thumb and forefinger, and I can hold the threads that way and hold the heddle. I'm going to get the long break just because it's a little easier, and then we're going to roll the roller, and we're going to roll the roller away from us so that the threads go over the top of it, and try to keep the heddle nice and central as you roll. Now if you're using a lot of threads, just put the break in place, just hold that there. Now if you're using a lot of threads, you can use the roller sticks that you have to help to keep your tension. You can also wrap paper around to ensure that the threads, you see something like this with the knot, you don't really want all the threads over the top of that, because those threads that are in line with that would then be out of, the tension would be out. But you shouldn't really have a problem with a small band, as long as it's not too long a length of your warp. So we'll just keep rolling. And if we need, at any point, to smooth out these threads at the front of the heddle, then just apply your break. You see, just there, I'm just starting to get to a point where my threads at the front of the heddle are just a little bit tangled up. So I'll apply that break so that I can pull and comb these out a little. Because you've cut separately and you've threaded separately, you shouldn't have too much of a difficulty of actually combing them out. So we'll hold on, hold the heddle, release the break, and continue to roll. Just take your time and keep your tension. And if you have difficulty, there's nothing wrong with asking another person to help you out with any of the warping up of your loom. Okay, I think that will be about as far as we go. I'm just going to even out these last threads. I'm going to move the loom so that you can see what I'm doing now. And I've come down to this end and I'm going to tie these into an overhand knot as well. So that tension should all be quite nice. I'm going to get a second waist thread. And again, fold it in half, squeaky voice then, fold it in half, lay the loop over the top, bring the ends through the loop, and then again, tie this to the warp. You can tie your warp at any point directly onto your rollers. That takes a little bit more, time to do, but it does help to keep a nice even tension across the board if you actually learn how to do it that way. And so now, just again, roll away so that the fabric, thread, your warp is going over the top, and then we'll just tighten it up and pop a lock into place. And now we're ready to begin weaving. Now you may wish to get rid of some of these excess threads. I like to, just because it keeps things neat for me. So in order to weave, actually I'll turn it to the side. You can see that there are two distinct sheds if I tilt this. So one is where the holes are and one is the slots. So when you raise that heddle up or you lower that heddle down, the holes, the threads that are in the holes will move, and that's what changes the shed. And the shed being this space here. Okay, so in order to weave, that's what we need to do. So we'll start out, and here's a neat way to start your bands, and this is also illustrated in the booklet. So basically what you need to do is you need to bring your thread through the space. We're going to leave a long length. Now we're going to raise, in fact I'll move this a little closer, raise the heddle, put your shuttle through, beat the shed, that's what that's called when you're pushing down like so, and we're going to take the threads through. I like to leave a little loop, and this will become clearer as you weave. It helps to keep your edges straight. Then we need to lower so that you get your shed again. And I'm going to take that and push down to beat the shed. We're going to pull through, but this time, instead of taking our regular shuttle through, we're going to take that tail back through. Okay. Then we're going to raise. And come through again. And just tighten that one off. And so basically, in order to keep weaving, you just raise and lower. I didn't pull that thread through. And you can see that the pattern is starting to emerge. And that's it. You're weaving. And it's as simple as that. Thanks ever so much for watching. I hope that that's helped to get you set up to use the loom. Subscribe, click like, and do remember that if you are using this method, do check out our videos on inkle on the tape loom section, which will give you some ideas for passementerie trims that you can weave. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.